And the subsequent nuclear catastrophe are forcing families to cope with an unseen danger. We have details in this report.
Six months after Japan's nuclear crisis at the Fukushima nuclear plant began, Osaku has more, not less, anxiety about her air, food, and water. Radiation readings outside the house are elevated, even though she lives in Kashiwa, just north of Tokyo, 200 kilometers away from the crippled plant. But Kashiwa is a relative hotspot. If the family lived outdoors a full year, the exposure would be 10 times higher than before the nuclear crisis began, but still at a level the government calls safe. But Osaku won't take any chances. Her children live indoors, and if she must go outside, she wears a mask. Eating and drinking is now a constant source of fear. I don't believe the government, she says. As I do more research, there's nothing to make me feel at ease about our safety. From the mother here to the streets of Tokyo, it's a sentiment that's only grown in the last 6 months. Suspicion and distrust of both Japan's government and of TEPCO, the owner of the crippled nuclear plant.
Just after the accident, so many things happened. I should say, sometimes we didn't know what's happening there. It might have frustrated so many people.
The biggest frustration, TEPCO's slow release of information. TEPCO took months to admit that 3 of the nuclear cores suffered full meltdowns at the plant. Temporary cooling systems are now in place, keeping the core stable, but Fukushima remains a crisis. A cold shutdown not expected until early next year. 20 kilometers around the plant is a closed-off hazardous zone. 88,000 residents still have no idea if they'll ever be able to return to their homes.
We have never hidden any information, but
it did take you months longer than people expected to admit that there was a full meltdown.
We tried to disclose every information we have as soon as possible. But, such a kind of effort might be, in a sense, below people's expectation.
And most of the international community's expectation.
I guess so.
As to how long Fukushima nuclear plant itself will be a contaminated zone?
It will take a long time.
Many years.
Many years.
Yuki Osaku isn't waiting around for that. She's moving with her 2 children to one of Japan's southernmost islands. Her husband will stay behind to work. She's simply fed up. I want to go back to the life we had before the quake, she says. I want to go grocery shopping without worry and have my children play outside. I want it back. It will only come, she says, by moving far, far away. Kyung-Long, CNN, Kashiwa, Japan.
There have been a number of developments in Libya today. There is a standoff in the desert town of Bani Walid, but fighting is at relative standstill, at least for now. Meanwhile, local associates of Muammar Gaddafi have reportedly slipped across the border into Niger, and there is some flare brewing over some China arms sales documents. In the town of Bani Walid, rebel fighters have continued encircling the city against the backdrop of an impending invasion to weed out pro-Gaddafi troops. We have more on China's attempt to prow up the falling Gaddafi regime.
These documents are at the center of a firestorm brewing between the new leadership in Libya and China.
This deal is a real deal, and we have seen the official documents. It was signed by Chinese officials, and it was to send guns and artilleries to Libya through Algiers.
Discovered by a reporter at Canada's Globe and Mail, these memos outline how in the final days of fighting, Chinese companies offered to sell an estimated $200 million worth of weapons to Muammar Gaddafi's regime, a longtime ally of Beijing.
That's still not clear whether that exact list of that document actually was delivered or not. That's not clear. But there are many things that were on that list that are here. And these are brand new equipment, brand new weapons, brand new boxes of ammunitions that haven't even been opened yet, that were clearly delivered only in the last few months.
delivered, according to the new rulers of Libya, when sanctions were in place. The Chinese government says it strictly adheres to the United Nations arms ban, though it acknowledged Gaddafi representatives did visit this country during the fighting.
The Gaddafi regime sent people to China to engage in contact with certain individuals of relevant Chinese companies in July, without the knowledge of Chinese government departments. Chinese companies have not signed any military trade contracts with Libya, let alone provide military exports to Libya.
None of the three companies named in the memos have responded to calls or emails sent by CNN. For years, China has been an important investor in Libya. It didn't veto the Western-led military campaign, though heavily criticized the action. Now, China's past relationship with Gaddafi appears to be wearing on its future ties with the transitional government.
Our chairman of the NTC, Musab Jalil, made it very, very clear that anybody who has helped and supported and stood by Gaddafi over the months would not be greeted well.
The stakes are very high for Beijing, potentially losing the oil that the new Libya could provide, as well as the business opportunities. Eunice Yoon, CNN, Beijing.
We now take our second break. Over to sports now. Grts FC got off to the perfect start in the 2011 Lamin Nawatan season with a 2-1 win over Sanchaba United in the Super Cup final. The match opens the way for the start of the popular summer football championship called Nawatan. Modu Esjala has more on that.
It is the curtain raiser for the 2011 Lamin Nawatan season, contested between the reigning league champions Grts FC and the knockout champion Sanchaba United, two of Lamin football's big guns with a massive community fan base. Grts made a perfect start, taking a commanding early lead just 10 minutes on the clock, when Malik Diouf rose high above opponent defenders to nod in the opener from a well-measured free kick. Sanchaba United responded very well, coming very close to equalizing, but Aliou Jaju misdirected his shot from a decent position. Very few chances came afterwards, with both sides closing the space in the middle of the pitch, not allowing the game to open up. But Sanchaba United's search for an equalizer came just after the half-hour mark from their scramble goal. Aliou Jaju floated in a high ball that was poorly dealt with by the Grts goalkeeper, and then the Sanchaba players scrambled the ball into the net, with Idrissa Badji claiming to have had the vital touch. The two teams emerged from the dressing room all square, determined to produce the first psychological blow to the remaining competing teams ahead of the new Nawatan season. Grts should have taken the lead just after the restart, but Mamadou Lamin Traore's first touch let him down. At the other end, Sanchaba were denied by this fingertip save from Almami Barrow in between the sticks for Grts FC. The deciding moment of this tight encounter came in the 70th minute when Mamadou Lamin Traore restored Grts' lead with a close-range strike into the bottom corner of the net. The knockout holders mounted a desperate effort to salvage at least a draw in the last quarter of the game, but were repelled back any time they came forward by a brilliant piece of defending from the Grts rear guards. Grts held on to what was considered an important victory ahead of the start of the summer football fiesta, and winning the first silverware up for grab, a perfect way to start the Nawatan season for the old boys of Lamin football.
It will really boost the morals of my players and the whole fans behind the team, because now people we are talking of, Grts don't have any player anymore. Grts is already off, Grts is down. But people seeing Grts winning this trophy here, we really know that Grts is still there. So we can play at any time and win at any time. So this is Grts.
It is another trophy for the most successful and most decorated team in Lamin football. All attention now shifts to the Nawatan proper, with 20 teams ready to battle for the coveted league title. Momodu Esjala, Grts.
And before we go, a reminder of our headlines. The CEO of Q Group, Mohammed Jah, has presented 2 operational vehicles to the ruling Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction and an automatic-driven car to President Jammeh. Government has secured a $14 million financing facility from the International Islamic Trade Finance Corporation for the purchase of locally produced groundnuts. A stash of